Hello, it's Trish Brennan. I wanted to make a recording today which talks a little bit about the matter of boundaries in our immune system. Just the other day, I was writing something relevant to my work that made me want to find a document I knew I'd written around about summertime last year, where I was looking at for some reason, I can't remember what the prompt was back then. But it's something I do all the time. I write all the time, and I'm kind of exploring the meaning of different things, and perfecting my understanding of boundaries and so on, and communication. And I opened the document, I had a read through, and I remember thinking, "Gosh, these things I was writing down were health problems that I was having in a period of my life that was extremely fraught with stress and trauma." And stretched on for fairly close to 20 years. There were lots of different things, nothing major, no big serious things, but things that were inconvenient, painful, just annoying sometimes. And one of the things I remember happening, I mean, the things I'm talking about really are some of the problems that women suffer from, which I'm not going to go into on this video, recurring issues. I was always losing my voice. I used to be a cabaret singer back then, and I knew that I was pushing things because I was struggling with these health issues, and I would just push through it because it's how I earned my income. So I would come back I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, or sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and I'd come back on the Sunday night. In fact, I'd go out on the Sunday night, hardly able to speak, but I could somehow force it out, the vocals I needed to produce. And then on Sunday night, I'd be wiped out on the way home from wherever, Carlisle, Leeds, Blackpool, Wigan, wherever it was, and not be able to speak for a few days, properly. But colds, catarrh, which I still have. I was diagnosed with the thyroid issue back then, and now it makes perfect sense. I came to see what that was all about. I still have that problem. I'm determined I will sort this myself through good nutrition and various other things. That's my intention. And one of the things I suffered from, which was a really very strange thing that happened, where I started to get these very strange lumps on my arms, legs, elbows, long lumps like this, like a big oval shape. On my shins, they were probably maybe, 6 or 8 inches long. But they were extremely inflamed, and to say they were painful is the understatement of the century. It was excruciating. To touch them with anything, and they were kind of popping up all over the place and very, very uncomfortable. I used to have to wear, when I was doing cabaret, I used to buy these tights that were, like stage tights, so they look glamorous from afar, nice sheen on them, but like something Nora Batty might wear up close and personal, not baggy, but thick. I used to have to wear 2 pairs just to try and disguise these lumps on my legs. In those days, I used to wear miniskirts, so that they were that red and that raw that even 2 pairs of tights, you could still see them. Now I don't much do doctors anymore, but in those days, my children were young, and I was not who I am now, so I did used to go to the doctor. And there were 2 different doctors I went to. And when this condition began, and neither of them really seemed to understand what was going on. I don't remember ever getting a clear diagnosis. Whether I was given some kind of anti-inflammatory, I don't know, but the condition didn't get any better. It got worse, actually. And then one day, I remember I was sitting at my kitchen table. I think I might have been reading, or I don't know, doing something for a bit of time. And when I came to get up from the table, I was seizing up, and it was really difficult to stand up. And once I got moving, obviously it must have improved a little bit, because I was so scared about what was happening to me. I was only a young woman then, 20 something or other, and I drove myself down to Casualty, and in a bit of a, I was really scared. I went and spoke to at the desk triage people and said, look, I've no idea what's happening. I feel quite stiff. I can't move properly. It showed them the lumps on my leg. They did the tests and things that they, questions and things that they usually do. And they sent me for a lung x-ray, which kind of blew my mind. I'm like, I've got lumps all over my arms and my legs and wherever else they were. And, why are you sending me for a lung x-ray? And it turned out it was somehow related to my throat and the loss of my voice, that whatever was causing that, it was all kind of connected. And they said I had some kind of a shadow on my lungs that this thing was causing. And then I was able to be given some kind of treatment that did actually seem to begin to clear it up over time. But now when I look back, and because I was reading this beginning of a blog post I was writing and exploring what I wanted to write about by recording all these different things, I had the sense there was a connection to all the stress in my life, and it was a very, very stressful time of my life. And now looking back, I realise it was my immune system was deeply compromised by the things that were going on. Another thing that used to happen to me, I would wake up sometimes in the night in a panic, feeling like I was being suffocated. And I would literally come up from laying down and begin to, feeling of needing to gasp for air. And strange things that were going on, but they were repetitive, and I would keep getting these things. It was one thing after another over a period of years, and it seemed like there was always something going on, around these, just different stuff. But anyway, looking back and reading through this thing, where I'd kind of suspected it was related to all the stress in my life, I hadn't thought immune problem. But since then, I've learned loads, watched loads, read loads, studied loads, and realised that my immune system was deeply compromised by the stress that I was under. And these different things that were happening were a manifestation of the stress that was going on in my life, and how my body was unable to cope with it because it was just too extreme. It was too much and too prolonged. So it became really, really clear looking back, because in the 10 years I've kind of been away from the situation I was in then, I've not had any of these problems. Health-wise, I've still got the thyroid issue, and obviously that reflects in my kind of fluctuating weight and what have you. But for the major part, I don't really have these health issues anymore. Don't really very often get colds where other people seem to be dropping like flies. I don't tend to get colds very often. My constitution, I think, is really quite stable, really. So this was last summer when I was kind of beginning this writing about this thing, and I kind of, as I often do, I'd put it to one side and got on with other things, forgot about it, and then something recently made me want to revisit it. And when I was reading it, I was looking at all the different things that had been going on for me in my health in that 20-year period, on near enough 20 years, and it really began to make sense to me that it definitely was an immune compromise, because it was the repetitive nature of things that kept happening to me, different health problems that were happening. And then in February this year, I spotted a YouTube video by Gabor Mate, and he talked about the correlation between the immune system and boundaries. And I'd already been doing boundaries work for a bit of some time. I'd developed a boundaries workshop, quite a few years ago, but then I didn't really do much with it. I was doing other things. But it was kind of like, oh my gosh, there is a medical scientist, somebody that's medically trained, talking about this thing that I kind of knew at some level, but I just didn't have the vocabulary to put it so precisely as he was doing. And it became clear, and he's kind of talking about this quite a lot now, that your immune system performs a very similar function to your boundaries, your personal boundaries. And when you don't defend your space and have strong boundaries in place, that you can not only work out what they are, where they're needed, but you can eloquently say what they are, you can communicate that to somebody else, and you can uphold those boundaries. That was all my personal learning. Where when I first wrote my boundaries program, it was a workshop, and it was like, okay, so looking back, where was I compromised? Where were my boundaries compromised? And why didn't I have them? And where were they? What was going on? But it just absolutely solidified for me that that's what was happening in my life. It was having physical effects over a long period of time because I was not looking after my own needs. My whole life at that time was all about trying to make things right for other people, pacifying other people, being the pleaser of other people. And I was always last on the list. And I still notice that there are ways that's still so. Different ways now, I think. We don't change overnight. And 10 years, I know it's not overnight, but it takes a while to change things. So I want to invite people who are who this touches, who it makes some connection with, just to have a look at the ways that you might be feeling physical symptoms. If you think of energy, we know energy is everywhere. Everything is made of energy. We're all energy. That when you're upset or stressed, think about if you're going for an interview, an important interview for a job that you really, really want. It might be you're going to be interviewed by a panel of 3 or 4 people. You've got to do a presentation and you're nervous as hell. And your body sends signals to you that are very noticeable and quantifiable. So you might have butterflies in your stomach. You might have sweaty palms. You might be flushed. You might feel nauseous. There's all sorts of ways that our adrenaline kicking around our system can affect us, and it's effectively the chemicals of fight or flight. In normal circumstances, well, say normal, in if you're being chased by a tiger, as I'm sure you've heard this before, you're on safari somewhere, and some danger comes along, and your blood flow comes away from your head, away from digestion, away from the core, the viscera, and goes into your arms and legs primarily. And the reason for that is because it's empowering you to fly. The fight or flight is empowering you to run and get yourself safe away from there. But normal everyday life is full of stressors that have the same chemical effect on our body. So our body is releasing these chemicals all the time. Now, if you're in a real fight or flight situation and you're being chased by a wild tiger, you are going to need the adrenaline, and it's going to give you the power to run or climb a tree or whatever you've got to do. And those occasions you read about of extraordinary strength, it's kind of the same thing, same chemicals really. But in normal day-to-day life, you tend not to have that burn off, unless maybe you go to the gym or you go running or find some other way to physically expel that energy, to release it from your body. So very often we end up keeping it in, and women especially, we squash it down. And that's definitely what I was doing. I would communicate what I needed. I would communicate if I was upset about something, but I didn't seem able to actually uphold a real boundary. So therefore, it was just hot air. So I would squash that energy down. And what was happening in those days, in that 20-year period, I was making myself sick. I was making my body ill because of my inability to look after my own needs and protect my own space. So that's really why I'm making this video today, is to invite you to consider what things are going on for you, if anything. Is there any kind of niggling health concern? And I mean, they do say, when you look at Louise Hay and her You Can Heal Your Life, and I do have that book and I've used it quite a lot in years gone by. I tend not to be so much for affirmations now. I write a lot, and that's kind of the way I express what's going on, and occasionally somebody might cut for an earful if I'm feeling a bit stressed or frustrated. But I do have ways of dealing with it. But that's the invitation to you, is to have a look at, where are you not defending your space? Where are you not saying no? Just have a look and think about the different things that are going on for you. Do you repeatedly get colds? Do you have lower back pain? Do you have arthritis and immune problems? And very often you'll find that when you revisit it, you realize there are loads of different ways that your body is paying the price for your head not looking after what you need, your head and your heart. you know, those chemicals will be being released into your body, and they will, if you don't express and look after and expel energy in the ways that, you know, are suitable for you, those chemicals that are in your body don't get released, and you will find yourself suffering health problems. So just a little invitation there to have a look at what's going on for you. Are you affected this way? Are you feeling certain situations, certain circumstances in your life that you could change by being more expressed, more authentic, and more looking after your own needs? So I'm going to leave that there. If you need any advice about boundaries, or you want to consult about boundaries, I do actually do now a sort of a clinic, boundaries clinic, boundaries clinic, where if you have a particular issue you want to kind of just talk over with somebody who understands what's going on and how to give you some boundary solutions, I do offer that now as well on the boundaries clinic. You can see the details about that and book if you want on the W's leadingedgecommunication.net. And just look for the page to book the Boundaries Clinic, and you'll see it there. Any comments or anything you'd like to add, please do below or on the video on YouTube, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.